This is the instructional video for the first type exercise in the beginning typography class. And in this video, I'm really going to explain the process of working in InDesign to complete this first type exercise. I'm going to go over a few of the basics in InDesign since this is the first tutorial as well, and I'll really walk you through the process of creating this project. So here I have InDesign open. I'm working in the latest version, so hopefully it will mimic what you're looking at. If you're working on a different version, it should look similar. But our first step is really to create a new file. So I'm going to click Create New. And then from here, I'm going to go ahead and create a letter-sized file. So if I come up here to print, there's letter here, and I can click on it. And then I need 2 pages for this assignment. So I'm going to go ahead and get 2. And I don't really want facing pages, so I'm going to uncheck that button. I'm looking here, everything looks correct. The orientation is vertical, which is what I want. And the rest of the defaults will work for me here. So I'm going to click Create. And InDesign's going to go ahead and create that document for me. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to reset my workstation. That will just help make sure that what we're looking at is the same. So you might want to do this as well. So if you come up here to Window and Workspace, you can click Essentials, and I'm going to go ahead and just reset Essentials so it's exactly what we're all looking at together. So that could be a good step to make sure that what you're seeing is what I'm seeing. If there's ever menus or windows that you can't find, they all live in here. So you can turn these things on and off by checking these boxes. So you'll notice here on the left, this is the toolbar. And if I click Tools, it'll disappear. And I can go back and turn it back on again. This is a really important menu that we'll use quite often. This is where all of the tools live that we use in InDesign. And then over here on the right, we have all of the different palettes. So as you click on these things, you're able to see different information based on what we need for these different assignments. So, a color palette, a swatches palette. This is a pages palette that allows you to see all of the pages inside of the document. There are layers as well, but that's not something I frequently work with in InDesign, although it can be useful. So the first step for this assignment is to find the quote or the message that has meaning to you. So that can be something that you find online, and we can just copy and paste that into InDesign. So once you've found that and you copied it, really the first step for this is to create a text box. So if I click on this type tool, I'm able to come into the document, and you'll notice that now I have a little cursor. And I can click and drag, and it allows me to create a type box. And then I can go ahead and paste the information inside. Your InDesign might default to filling this box with a lot of filler text, but you can go ahead and delete that and then paste in whatever you want to work with. So this is a quote from Jim Jarmusch that I'm going to use for this assignment. So once you paste it in, it's always going to default to 12-point font and Minion Pro. Sometimes it will default to Myriad, but for the most part, you're going to see Minion. And for this assignment, it's really looking at how can you modify the way the text is set to make it look different. So we're really looking to create one setting that's more dark and dense, and another setting that's a little bit more light and airy. So there are quite a few restrictions on this. I don't want you to just mess with the text in any way, but you are more than welcome to change the font. So if you come up here and click on this, there's a pull-down menu that will show you all of these different typefaces that you can work with. So we can go ahead and change the font. You're also more than welcome to change the weight. So a lot of these fonts have different weights. That might be important as you're trying to create the light and airy or the dark version. We can also change the size of the text. So right here, by clicking this up and down, I'm able to make the text bigger. And then this is the leading. So leading is the space between lines of text, and I can also change this as well. For the light and airy, we're really going to want to increase the leading and the tracking because that'll help it feel more light and airy. So this is the tracking. You'll notice when I turn this on, it's actually putting spaces between the letter forms, so it's spacing the lines of text out further. We don't want to go too far, but that's something that you can explore. Things that I want you to avoid are these. So please don't touch any of these functions. These are going to shear the type or change the proportion of the typography. We want to leave the color alone. We want to keep this black. But it's also really important that you don't put a stroke on the type. So no adding stroke. And there's also no graphic elements. So you're really just working with typography here. So those are really the aspects that you're able to work with. So you can change the typeface, the weight, the size, the leading, the tracking. Then we can also change the placement on the page. So if I click on the solid arrow tool and I get out of the type tool, I'm then able to move this type box around. I can also make it smaller, which will reflow the text. So that potentially might be something that you want to look at. It might be important where this lives and how it looks on the page. Changing the proportion of the box based on the format can really change the way the entire document feels. So I'm really going to work through this, and you can watch me through this process, and hopefully it will help you as you create your own version of the type exercise. So once I'm ready to start on the next one, I can come up here to edit and do copy, and then I can come down and double click on page 2 and click paste in place, and that's going to put this exactly where I had it. And now I'm going to play with making a more dense setting. If you press W, it'll allow you to see what the actual document will look like without all of the lines and the guidelines included. So this is pretty rudimentary. This is a simple assignment, but I'm going to go ahead and stop there for the sake of this exercise. It's always very important to save your work. If you haven't saved, it'll be very difficult for you to recover the files, although InDesign does have some recovery features. So I'm going to go ahead and just come up here quickly and save. And for the first time, it's going to ask you to name the file. So I'm going to name it my first initial last name and then type exercise 1. So help me stay really organized. So I can click save, and that will create an InDesign file for us that we can go back to and use. And then I can go ahead and then continue to save or press Command S as I'm working and making changes so that I'm sure that I'm keeping my file intact and that I'm not going to lose any of my work. It's an important step to remember, especially when we get into the longer assignments where you'll want to make sure that you don't lose any of your work along the way. So once you have it set up how you want, now we need to export it as a PDF so that we can post it to the discussion. So that process really happens by going to File, and then Export. And in here we get a dialog box. So here we're able to then name the file. So I prefer if you name it your first initial, last name, and then underscore type exercise 1. And once we have that, you can save it wherever you want on your computer. So we go ahead and click Save. We're going to have a second dialog box that's going to allow us to choose some different options here. Since this is a course where we're posting these items online, we want to make sure the files are small. So we're going to come up here to Press Quality and choose Smallest File Size. That's really going to help us make sure that these files are easy to upload to Blackboard. So I'll go ahead and click Export, and you'll notice this little menu comes up. It disappeared quickly because the PDF's done. And once that's happened, you can go ahead and take that PDF and upload it to the discussion. So again, this is a fairly simple exercise, but it's really to help you get familiar with InDesign, to help you really understand how to approach using typography, and really the control that you have as a designer in terms of determining how type looks on a page. So push the creativity as far as you can, and be sure to get these things up so we can comment on other people's projects. You'll be surprised at the variety that we'll see depending on how long or short the quotes are or the typefaces and the different design decisions that are made. So as always, if you have any questions at all, please email your instructor. We're here to help, and good luck on the assignment.